The Sahara Desert stretched endlessly under the hot sun. Waves of golden sand rolled over the land, hiding secrets that had not seen daylight for thousands of years. Rami, a young and curious archaeologist, wiped the sweat from his forehead. He had been walking for hours, searching for traces of ancient civilizations. His heart raced with excitement. Every step in the desert felt like stepping closer to a mystery waiting to be solved. Rami stopped suddenly. Something unusual caught his eye. Among the rolling sands, a faint shimmer reflected the sunlight. He bent down and carefully brushed away the sand with his hands. His fingers hit smooth stone, cold and different from the surrounding desert. He realized that this was not just a random rock. The stone had strange carvings on it, symbols that seemed ancient and unfamiliar. He pulled out his small notebook and began sketching the markings. He had seen some ancient scripts before, but this one was different. It felt like a language forgotten by time. Rami's curiosity grew stronger. He dug around the stone carefully, uncovering more of the structure beneath. Soon a small opening appeared, just large enough for a person to crawl inside. Rami took a deep breath. The air near the entrance was cool, almost inviting. He took out his flashlight and climbed into the darkness. The moment his feet touched the ground, he felt a strange energy around him. The tomb smelled of earth and something metallic, like old coins. He moved slowly, shining the light on the walls. The walls were covered in golden patterns that sparkled faintly. Rami's eyes widened in wonder. He had read about treasures hidden in deserts, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. The gold did not feel ordinary. It seemed alive, as if it remembered the people who had built the tomb so long ago. As Rami walked deeper, the ground beneath him shifted slightly. Tiny stones rolled under his feet. He paused and noticed marks on the floor. They looked like tracks, but too perfect to be natural. His heart beat faster. Could someone else be here before him? He listened carefully, but the tomb was silent except for the faint sound of wind echoing through the corridors. He continued, moving cautiously. Every step revealed more wonders. The walls were carved with scenes of people living in a civilization long gone. Rami saw images of farmers, builders, and children playing. The carvings told a story of a people who valued knowledge, wisdom, and courage. They seemed to be guiding him, showing him the path to something important. Suddenly, Rami reached a large stone door. The carvings on it were different. They glowed faintly in the light of his flashlight. Symbols of stars, rivers, and mountains were intertwined with images of golden treasures. He placed his hand on the door. It was cold and smooth, yet it felt like it had a heartbeat of its own. Rami pressed gently and the door moved slightly. A hidden mechanism clicked and a small section opened, revealing a passage beyond. Rami stepped through. The air grew cooler and the light dimmer. He felt a sense of awe and respect. This place was not just a tomb. It was a message from the past, waiting for someone to understand it. He imagined the people who had built it. They must have been clever and wise. They had created a place that could survive centuries of sand and time. As he walked, he found more treasures. Small golden artifacts, jars filled with mysterious powders, and scrolls with faded writings. He carefully documented everything. Rami knew that this discovery could change history. The tomb was not only a burial place, it was a library of the past. Every object had a story, every symbol a meaning. Rami paused in the middle of the chamber. He looked around, feeling both excitement and responsibility. This was a gift from the past, but it also came with a warning. He needed to be careful. The tomb had survived for so long because it had protections. It was meant for someone patient, wise, and respectful. Rami smiled. He had always wanted an adventure like this, and now it had found him. He decided to rest for a moment. As he sat on a stone block, he touched the carvings on the wall. The gold seemed to hum slightly under his fingers. It was as if the tomb recognized his presence. Rami felt a connection with the ancient civilization. He was no longer just an observer. He was part of their story now, a link between the past and the future. The sun outside was beginning to set, casting long shadows over the desert. Rami knew he could not explore the entire tomb in one day, but he also knew this was only the beginning. The tomb had secrets that would take days, maybe weeks, to uncover. He smiled with determination. The adventure of a lifetime had just begun. The next morning, Rami returned to the tomb before the sun rose. The desert was quiet and the sand shimmered with golden light. His heart beat with excitement. He had rested well and was ready to explore the hidden chambers deeper inside. He entered the tomb carefully, shining his flashlight along the walls. The golden patterns glowed faintly in the darkness. Rami noticed that the carvings on the walls seemed different from yesterday. New symbols appeared as if the tomb had changed while he was away. He bent closer to study them. They looked like instructions guiding him to the next chamber. As he followed the path, he heard a soft hum. It was low and steady, vibrating through the stone floor. Rami stopped and held his breath. The hum grew louder as he walked further. The walls around him seemed alive, shimmering with a golden light. He realized that the tomb was not just a place of rest for the dead. It had mechanisms, ancient and powerful, designed to protect its secrets. Rami reached a large chamber. The ceiling was high, carved with golden stars and strange symbols. In the center of the room stood a platform surrounded by small golden pillars. The hum was strongest here. When Rami stepped closer, the floor beneath him moved slightly. He jumped back, heart racing. The tomb responded to his presence. It was awakening. The walls shifted slightly, revealing hidden passages. Rami's mind raced with questions. Who had built this place and why? He noticed small panels on the walls with carvings of gears and levers. They looked like a puzzle. He realized that the tomb was testing him. Only someone careful and clever could pass. Rami studied the panels for a long time. He tried moving some levers and the room responded. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a narrow corridor. He entered it slowly, keeping his flashlight steady. The air grew cooler and smelled of old metal. Shadows danced on the walls as he moved forward. The corridor opened into a hall filled with golden statues of animals. Lions, hawks, and serpents glowed in the dim light. They were not ordinary statues. Rami noticed small mechanisms inside them. When he stepped near a statue, it moved slightly. The hawk stretched its wings and the lion's eyes glowed. Rami realized the statues were guardians. They were built to protect the tomb. He took a careful step forward. The statues watched him silently. Rami remembered the carvings on the walls. They had instructions: use intelligence, not force. He approached the first statue slowly. He studied the symbols carved at its base. It was a riddle. Rami smiled. He loved riddles. He whispered the answer aloud, and the statue moved aside, revealing a hidden passage. Rami continued, solving each riddle and moving past the golden guardians. The tomb seemed to respond to his mind and courage. It was not dangerous if he was respectful and smart. Each chamber he entered was more amazing than the last. Walls covered with golden maps, glowing symbols, and images of stars fascinated him. He realized the builders had been advanced. They understood science and nature in ways that humans were only beginning to discover. At the end of the hall, Rami found a door unlike the others. It was covered in gold and shimmered with a faint light. Symbols of the sun and moon were carved into it. The hum was loudest here. Rami placed his hand on the door. It felt warm and alive. He pushed gently and the door began to open. A golden light poured into the hall, reflecting off every surface. Rami stepped into a circular chamber. In the center was a golden pedestal. On it lay a small, shining object. Rami's eyes widened. It was beautiful and unlike anything he had seen before. The walls of the chamber glowed with energy, forming patterns that seemed to move. The tomb was alive, and this was its heart. He reached out slowly. The object pulsed softly under his fingers. It was as if it was waiting for him. Rami realized that the tomb had chosen him to discover its secrets. He felt both pride and responsibility. This was not just treasure. It was knowledge, energy, and history preserved in gold. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the chamber. The golden statues outside stirred, their eyes glowing brighter. Rami stepped back but kept calm. He remembered the riddles and the lessons from the tomb. He understood that he had to respect its rules. He took a deep breath and observed carefully. The tomb was testing him, and he would pass if he was patient and wise. Rami spent the rest of the day exploring the circular chamber. He documented the carvings, mapped the patterns of light, and studied the golden object carefully. He knew he had found something extraordinary. The tomb was not just a resting place. It was a treasure of knowledge, waiting for someone who could understand it. As the sun set outside, Rami sat near the pedestal. The golden light bathed the chamber in warmth. He felt connected to the ancient builders, as if their wisdom was flowing into him. The tomb was awakening, and he was part of its story now. Rami knew he could not leave this place empty-handed, but he also knew the tomb's secrets were powerful. He had to be careful and thoughtful. Tomorrow he would explore even deeper. The tomb was alive, and its mysteries were only beginning to unfold. Rami smiled. This adventure was far beyond what he had imagined. The tomb was a challenge, a teacher, and a treasure all at once. He felt ready for whatever the tomb would reveal next. Rami had never seen anything like the chamber he had discovered. The golden pedestal in the center glowed softly, and the walls were alive with moving patterns of light. But the moment he looked closer, he noticed movement at the edges of the chamber. Statues shaped like desert animals were shifting slightly. A golden lion stretched its legs. A hawk on a nearby pedestal opened its wings. A serpent coiled slowly and watched him. Rami's heart raced. He knew these were not ordinary statues. They were guardians built to protect the tomb and its secrets. He took a careful step back, shining his flashlight to see them better. Each guardian was detailed perfectly, with golden eyes that reflected the light of the pedestal. They were beautiful and dangerous. The lion took a step forward, its eyes fixed on Rami. The hawk flapped its wings and the serpent hissed softly. Rami realized that these guardians were powered by the tomb itself. They responded to movement, intelligence, and perhaps to courage. He knew that rushing or trying to fight them would be a mistake. Rami remembered the riddles he had solved in the hall outside. The tomb tested cleverness, patience, and respect. He decided to observe the guardians carefully. The lion did not attack. Instead, it walked slowly around the pedestal, examining Rami. The hawk tilted its head as if curious. The serpent coiled tighter but did not strike. Rami took a deep breath. He began to speak softly, reciting the lessons he had learned from the carvings on the walls. Words about wisdom, respect, and courage filled the air. The guardians paused. Their movements slowed. It was as if they were listening. Rami realized they were not just mechanical. They were intelligent in some way, responding to understanding rather than force. He moved slowly toward the lion, keeping his hands visible. The lion lowered its head and sniffed the air near him. Rami reached out and touched the golden mane. It felt warm, like metal mixed with energy. The lion did not move aggressively. It stepped aside, creating a path for Rami to approach the pedestal. The hawk watched him closely. Rami noticed carvings at its base. He studied them and found a small puzzle, a series of symbols that formed a riddle. Carefully, he traced the symbols with his finger and whispered the answer. The hawk flapped its wings and flew to the corner of the room, clearing the way. The serpent was the last guardian. Its golden scales glowed and its eyes followed every movement. Rami observed the carvings near the serpent. They showed a pattern of steps and a sequence of lights. He realized that he had to step on the floor tiles in a particular order. With careful attention, Rami followed the sequence exactly as shown. The serpent relaxed and coiled back, leaving the passage open. Rami smiled with relief and excitement. The guardians had tested him and he had passed. He realized that the tomb valued intelligence, patience, and respect more than strength or speed. The ancient builders had created a way to protect their treasures without causing unnecessary harm. He approached the pedestal once more. The glowing object rested on top, pulsing softly. Rami could feel the energy radiating from it. The guardians watched quietly as if acknowledging his success. He reached out and touched the object gently. It was heavier than it looked and seemed to hum in response to his hand. As he held the object, the patterns on the wall shifted. Golden lights moved along the carvings, forming constellations, maps, and symbols of knowledge. Rami realized that this object was more than a treasure. It contained information, technology, and wisdom of the ancient civilization. The tomb was teaching him, showing him secrets that humans had lost over centuries. Rami spent hours studying the guardians and the pedestal. He documented every movement, every reaction, and every symbol. He understood that the tomb had been designed for someone who could learn from it, not just take from it. The guardians were not enemies. They were guides, helping him understand the importance of responsibility. By evening, Rami felt a deep connection with the tomb and its builders. The golden light of the pedestal bathed the room in warmth. The guardian stood silently, watching over him. He realized that he was part of something much larger than himself. The tomb was alive with knowledge, and he had become its student. Rami carefully placed the glowing object back on the pedestal. He did not want to rush or make a mistake. He knew there was more to discover, more chambers to explore, and more lessons to learn. The guardians had accepted him, and now it was time to continue his journey. With a deep breath, Rami moved toward the passage revealed by the serpent. The golden light followed him and the hum of the tomb filled the air. He felt excitement and determination. The tomb was vast and full of mysteries, and he was ready to uncover them. The adventure had only just begun, and the guardians would be with him every step of the way, guiding him toward the secrets hidden beneath the sands of the Sahara. Rami stepped carefully through the passage opened by the serpent. The golden light of the previous chamber faded slowly as he entered a larger hall. The air here was cooler, and a quiet hum filled the space. The walls were smooth, polished stone, and faint golden lines traced patterns across them. Rami felt a shiver of excitement. This place was unlike anything he had seen before. As he walked further, golden symbols on the walls began to glow. Soft light reflected across the hall, creating the effect of moving images. Rami stopped and watched. Figures appeared, faint and shimmering like shadows of the past. They were people, men, women, and children, going about their daily lives. The images were detailed, showing clothes, homes, and tools. It was as if the tomb was showing him the world of the people who had built it. Rami stepped closer. The images moved as if alive. He saw farmers harvesting crops under a bright sun, children playing in courtyards, and scholars studying at long stone tables. Each scene seemed to tell a story. The tomb was speaking to him, sharing the life of a civilization long gone. Rami realized that this was more than a treasure. The gold and the light were preserving knowledge. The builders wanted to teach those who could understand. He walked along the hall, touching the walls gently. The golden lines responded to his hands, shifting and forming new images. Rami saw scenes of invention, machines powered by energy unlike anything he had seen, water systems that carried life through cities, and maps of stars and planets. The civilization had understood science and nature deeply. They had preserved their knowledge for future generations, hoping someone worthy would find it. Suddenly, a soft voice seemed to echo in the hall. It was not loud, but it carried meaning. Rami realized that the tomb was not only showing images, it was communicating. The voice told stories of courage, wisdom, and teamwork. It spoke of how the civilization valued learning, helping others, and exploring the unknown. Rami felt inspired. These were lessons he could carry beyond the tomb. He paused near a large golden circle on the floor. As he stepped into it, the images on the walls became brighter. Holographic projections of people appeared around him. They moved gracefully, acting out daily life, and Rami could study every detail. He saw how children were taught respect and knowledge, how adults shared skills, and how leaders guided with fairness. It was a society built on understanding, not fear or power. Rami's eyes widened as he noticed more symbols among the golden lines. They were maps of the stars, diagrams of plants, and instructions for building machines. He understood that the tomb held not only history but also technology and wisdom, far beyond what his world had today. The builders had wanted to share it with someone who could appreciate and use it responsibly. Hours passed, but Rami hardly noticed. He explored every wall, studied every projection, and made careful notes in his notebook. The hall seemed endless, filled with knowledge and guidance. Each step revealed something new. He felt like a student in a classroom that stretched across time, learning from teachers who lived thousands of years ago. Toward the end of the hall, Rami reached a chamber filled with golden books and scrolls. The light reflected off them, making the room glow like sunlight. The scrolls contained writings in the ancient language, and the books were filled with diagrams, maps, and instructions. Rami realized that these were records of the civilization's greatest achievements. They had captured their science, art, and philosophy in a way that could survive the ages. Rami carefully picked up a scroll. As he unrolled it, golden lines appeared in the air, forming shapes and instructions he could follow. It was as if the tomb wanted him to learn step by step. He studied the scroll, amazed at the knowledge preserved in such a beautiful and thoughtful way. Every detail mattered, and he understood that the builders had trusted him with this treasure. He spent the evening reading and observing. The Hall of Echoes had taught him more than he had imagined. The civilization had left their story, their wisdom, and their hope for the future. Rami felt a deep respect for them. They had created a place that could survive the test of time, hidden beneath the sands, waiting for someone worthy. As he prepared to leave the hall, Rami looked back at the glowing images. The people of the past seemed to watch him, encouraging him to carry their lessons into the future. He felt a sense of responsibility. The tomb was not just a discovery. It was a gift, and he had to use it wisely. Rami stepped into the next passage, ready to explore further. The golden light followed him, illuminating new symbols and patterns. The tomb had more to reveal, and he was eager to learn. With every step, he felt closer to understanding the wisdom of the ancient civilization. The Hall of Echoes had opened his eyes to the value of knowledge and the importance of respecting the past. He smiled as he moved forward. The adventure was far from over. The tomb had more secrets to share, and Rami was ready to uncover them, one by one. Rami moved carefully through the narrow passage at the end of the Hall of Echoes. The golden light of the hall faded behind him, replaced by a soft glow coming from deep within the tomb. His heart raced with excitement. He had learned so much already, but he felt that the most important discovery was still ahead. The passage opened into a circular chamber. The walls were smooth and polished, reflecting the faint golden light from the floor. In the center of the room stood a pedestal. On top of it lay a small shining object. It was not large, but its presence was powerful. The glow from the object pulsed slowly, as if it had a heartbeat. Rami could feel energy in the air, soft but strong. He approached the pedestal cautiously. As he walked closer, he noticed patterns on the floor around it. They were not random. Golden lines traced symbols and shapes that moved like a map. Rami realized that the tomb was guiding him, showing the path and explaining how to handle the object safely. He took a deep breath and stepped carefully into the center. The moment he touched the object, a soft vibration ran through his fingers. The golden lines on the floor brightened and the walls seemed to respond. Light flowed across the chamber, forming shapes and symbols in the air. Rami realized that the object was not just gold. It held knowledge and energy, preserved by the builders for thousands of years. He studied the object carefully. It was perfectly smooth, yet it pulsed with energy. Rami felt a connection, as if the tomb had chosen him to understand it. He remembered the lessons from the Guardians and the Hall of Echoes. The tomb valued respect, intelligence, and patience. He knew he had to be careful. This was not a treasure to take lightly. Golden symbols appeared on the walls, forming instructions. Rami followed them slowly, moving his hands over the object in the ways shown by the light. Each movement caused the object to glow brighter. A soft hum filled the chamber, rising and falling like a song. The tomb was alive with knowledge, and it was teaching him how to use the object safely. As he worked, Rami noticed small openings in the walls. Behind each, he saw tools, scrolls, and objects he had not seen before. The tomb was full of preserved knowledge and technology. He realized that the builders had wanted to share more than wealth. They had left lessons for anyone who was worthy of learning. Rami continued to follow the patterns on the floor. Each step felt deliberate. The object pulsed in his hands, responding to his care and attention. He understood that this chamber had been designed to test not strength, but responsibility. The builders had known that powerful tools could be dangerous in the wrong hands. Only someone thoughtful could access their full potential. After a while, the hum grew louder and the golden light on the wall shifted. Rami looked up and saw symbols forming a star map, showing planets, constellations, and paths through the sky. He realized that the object was connected to more than just the tomb. It was part of a knowledge system that could explain the universe itself. The builders had preserved not only wealth but understanding, hoping that someone could use it to help humanity. Rami felt a sense of awe. The object was a key, a source of power, and a guide to knowledge. He understood that the tomb had trusted him, chosen him to learn and test him. He carefully placed the object back on the pedestal. He did not want to rush or make a mistake. Every detail mattered. The tomb was alive, and it responded to thought, patience, and respect. Hours passed as Rami explored the chamber. He studied the symbols, recorded the patterns, and documented the small artifacts hidden in the walls. Each object had a purpose. Each symbol carried a lesson. Rami felt he was becoming part of the ancient civilization's story. They had preserved their legacy for someone who could understand it, and now he was that person. Finally, Rami stepped back and looked around the chamber. The pedestal glowed softly and the golden patterns on the walls shimmered. He realized the true meaning of his discovery. The tomb was not just about gold or treasure. It was about knowledge, wisdom, and responsibility. He had learned the builder's greatest lesson, the value of understanding and respect for the past. Rami knew that he could not take everything with him. The tomb was meant to be preserved. but he also knew that he could share what he had learned with the world responsibly. The knowledge and wisdom of the ancient civilization could help humanity in ways never imagined. He left the secret chamber with a new sense of purpose. The tomb had revealed its greatest secret to him, and he had passed the test. He smiled, knowing that the adventure was far from over. More mysteries awaited, and the tomb still had lessons to teach. Rami felt ready for whatever came next. Rami left the secret chamber, holding his notebook filled with sketches and notes. The tomb had already revealed so much, yet he sensed that there was one final challenge awaiting him. The golden light in the walls seemed brighter, as if guiding him toward the next test. His heart beat faster, filled with excitement and anticipation. He followed the passage, which twisted and turned deeper into the tomb. The air became cooler and the soft hum of energy grew louder. Soon he entered a large hall unlike any he had seen before. The floor was covered in golden tiles, each engraved with symbols and numbers. The walls were lined with mechanisms that moved slowly, shifting gears and panels as if the tomb itself were alive. Rami realized that this was the trial of time. The tomb had been built to test patience, intelligence, and careful thought. One wrong step could trigger a mechanism, closing a passage or sealing a door. He understood that rushing would not help. He needed to observe, plan, and act wisely. He stepped carefully onto the first tile. The floor vibrated slightly under his weight, and a small panel in the wall lit up. Rami studied the symbols. They formed a pattern, a code that he needed to follow to move forward safely. He traced the lines with his finger, matching them to the tiles. Step by step, he progressed across the hall, his mind focused and sharp. As he reached the center, the tomb shifted more noticeably. Walls moved slowly, revealing hidden doors and passages. A golden light illuminated a new path, but the floor ahead was covered in moving tiles. Some tiles sank slightly when stepped on, while others rose. Rami took a deep breath and analyzed the pattern. He realized that the sequence repeated, and careful observation would allow him to cross safely. He moved slowly, counting steps and watching the tiles. His patience paid off. Each tile he chose responded correctly, and the floor carried him forward. The golden mechanisms on the walls hummed in harmony with his movements. It was as if the tomb approved of his careful approach. At the far end of the hall, Rami encountered another challenge. A series of doors blocked the way, each with a golden lock shaped like a star. Above each lock was a puzzle, symbols and numbers that needed to be matched perfectly. He studied the puzzles carefully. He noticed a pattern similar to the carvings in the Hall of Echoes in the secret chamber. The tomb was testing his memory, intelligence, and attention to detail. Rami solved the first puzzle, matching the symbols with the numbers. The lock clicked and the door opened slowly. He continued with the next and then the next, moving steadily forward. The tomb seemed to respond to his focus. The hum of energy became softer and calmer, as if the trial was guiding him rather than opposing him. Finally, Rami reached the last door. It was larger and more ornate than the others, covered in golden symbols that shimmered in the soft light. The puzzle here was the most complex. It required him to combine the lessons he had learned from the Guardians, the Hall of Echoes, and the secret chamber. Rami studied the symbols carefully, recalling the movements of the Guardians, the star maps, and the patterns of energy he had seen before. He moved his hands over the golden carvings, aligning them according to the patterns in his memory. The symbols glowed brighter as he adjusted them, until finally, with a soft click, the door slowly opened. Rami stepped forward, feeling a wave of relief and accomplishment. He had passed the trial of time. The tomb had tested his patience, intelligence, and respect for its secrets, and he had succeeded. Beyond the door, a final chamber awaited. Golden light filled the space, warm and welcoming. The walls were covered in carvings showing the achievements and wisdom of the ancient civilization. Rami felt a deep sense of connection. The tomb had taught him that the true treasure was not gold or wealth, but knowledge, understanding, and careful thought. He walked slowly through the chamber, absorbing every detail. Each carving, each symbol, each artifact told a story. The builders had created this place not only to protect their treasures, but to guide those who could understand them. Rami realized that the tomb had chosen him because he had shown respect, intelligence, and patience. He felt honored and humbled. Rami paused in the center of the chamber. The golden light reflected off the walls, creating a sense of warmth and peace. He understood the message of the tomb clearly. The power of knowledge was greater than gold, and responsibility and wisdom were essential to using it. The trial of time had proven that he was ready to carry the legacy of the ancient civilization forward. As he prepared to leave the chamber, Rami looked back once more. The tomb had revealed its greatest secrets, but he knew that its lessons would stay with him forever. The trial of time had not only tested him, but had taught him the value of careful thought, patience, and respect for knowledge. He smiled with determination, ready to share what he had learned with the world in a responsible way. Rami stepped toward the exit, confident and inspired. The tomb had more to reveal in the days ahead, but he had passed the most important trial. He was now a true student of the ancient civilization, carrying their wisdom into the future. The adventure had been challenging, but it had made him stronger, wiser, and ready for the final step of his journey. Rami stepped carefully through the final passage of the tomb. The trial of time had tested him, and he had passed. Golden light followed him as he moved, illuminating the walls and the intricate carvings one last time. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The tomb had revealed its secrets, its wisdom, and its treasures, and now it was time to return to the world above. As he emerged from the sand-covered entrance, the bright sunlight of the Sahara greeted him. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction, warm and golden. Rami paused for a moment, letting the sunlight fill his eyes and breathe in the dry desert air. He felt a sense of connection, not only with the land, but with the civilization that had built the tomb so long ago. Rami carefully carried his notebook, filled with sketches, notes, and records of everything he had discovered. He knew the true treasure was not the gold or artifacts, but the knowledge, wisdom, and lessons preserved by the builders. They had trusted him to understand and respect their legacy, and he felt that responsibility strongly. He looked back at the entrance of the tomb, partially hidden beneath the sand. The golden light from inside shimmered faintly, as if the tomb was alive, watching him and approving of his choices. The tomb had remained hidden for centuries, waiting for someone patient, thoughtful, and wise. Rami had proven himself worthy. Walking across the desert, Rami reflected on what he had learned. The ancient civilization had created guardians, puzzles, and trials not to punish intruders, but to ensure that only those who could appreciate and protect their knowledge would reach the heart of the tomb. Their wisdom, their culture, and their inventions were preserved for the future, and now he had the chance to carry their lessons to the world. Rami thought about the Hall of Echoes, where holograms of daily life had taught him about courage, patience, and teamwork. He remembered the guardians, who had responded to intelligence and respect rather than force. He remembered the secret chamber, where the glowing object had revealed knowledge and technology beyond imagination. Each experience had prepared him for this moment, giving him insight into the value of wisdom over wealth. He knew that he could not take the tomb's treasures for personal gain. That would dishonor the civilization that had preserved them. Instead, he decided to document everything responsibly, sharing their knowledge with scholars and scientists who could use it to benefit humanity. Rami understood that the legacy of the tomb was not gold or wealth, but understanding, progress, and inspiration. As he walked, Rami noticed small changes in the desert light. The sun reflected off the sand in a way that reminded him of the golden patterns inside the tomb. He smiled, realizing that the desert itself had been a part of the tomb's protection, keeping the secret safe through time. The civilization had trusted nature as much as they had trusted human intelligence. Rami camped near a dune that evening, under the vast desert sky. Stars sparkled above, and he thought about the star maps he had seen in the tomb. The builders had studied the skies carefully, understanding patterns and celestial movements. He imagined their curiosity and determination, and he felt a connection across time. Their spirit of exploration and knowledge lived on in him. He carefully reviewed his notes, making sure every detail was accurate. He knew that sharing this knowledge could help scientists understand ancient technology, improve energy systems, and inspire new discoveries. Rami understood the importance of responsibility. The tomb had chosen him because he could respect and protect its secrets. That trust was now his to honor. As dawn broke, Rami packed his camp and looked toward the horizon. The desert stretched endlessly, but he felt ready to face the challenges ahead. He had learned the tomb's greatest lesson, that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding were far more valuable than gold or power. The civilization had preserved their legacy for a reason, and now it was his turn to continue that story. Rami walked across the sand, carrying the notebook and the memory of everything he had learned. The tomb beneath the Sahara remained hidden, golden and silent, waiting for the next worthy explorer. Its treasures of knowledge, wisdom, and innovation would continue to inspire those who approached with respect and curiosity. As he disappeared into the desert, Rami felt hope. The civilization's message had survived time. Its lessons would guide humanity, helping people understand that the greatest treasures are not material, but the knowledge, wisdom, and courage to use it wisely. The tomb had given him more than gold. It had given him purpose, insight, and a connection to a civilization that time could not erase. Rami smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility and the thrill of discovery. The adventure of a lifetime had ended, but the legacy of the tomb would continue. He knew that the lessons he had learned would shape not only his life, but the future of everyone who could learn from the forgotten civilization beneath the Sahara. With the golden sunrise behind him, Rami stepped forward, carrying the past into the future, ready to honor the knowledge, wisdom, and courage that had survived the test of time.